Welcome, my friends. Please sit, take a drink, and let me tell you the tale of the Giant of Penhill. When the Norsemen came to settle in Yorkshire, long before Norman ships ever appeared on English shores, they brought more than their longboats and sagas. They brought their gods, and, more importantly for this tale, they brought bloodlines touched by those gods. Some claimed descent from Odin, others from the trickster Loki, but one giant who roamed the dales near Bolton Castle was said to be descended from Thor himself, god of thunder and wrath. This giant was no myth amongst the folks of the region, he was terrifyingly real. He lived high on Penhill, a brooding figure looming over the land, and he ruled the surrounding countryside through fear. His only companions were a monstrous herd of pigs, fat and unruly, and his savage hound, Wolfhead, a beast as cruel as its master, and far more loyal. Each morning the giant would open the great iron gate of his keep and lead his swine out onto the hills, counting each one with greedy pride. His pigs were the biggest in the land, a living fortune of meat and muscle. Wolfhead guarded them, sharp-eyed and ever hungry, snapping at anything that moved too close. One clear morning, with frost still clinging to the grass, the giant spied a flock of sheep grazing peacefully on a nearby slope. He sneered. Foolish things. He grunted to Wolfhead. Nothing like our fine pigs. Go, have a little fun. And with a snarl, Wolfhead was off. The hound lunged at the sheep, tearing through the flock like a whirlwind of claws and teeth. The sheep stood no chance. One by one they fell, blood soaking the earth. The giant laughed, his booming voice echoing across the valley. But then, a cry broke the laughter. A young woman came running, Gunda, daughter of a poor shepherd. She threw herself at the giant's feet, eyes wide with terror, begging, "Please, sir, these sheep belong to my father. They are all we have. Please, call off your beast." Her words only amused the giant more. He watched another sheep fall and clapped with glee. Then his mood shifted. His eyes narrowed. "Perhaps," he said with a leer, "if you can make it worth my while." He reached for her, grabbing at her clothes with claw-like hands. But Gunda was quick. She twisted away, leaving only a scrap of fabric in his fist, and fled. The giant bellowed with rage and sent Wolfhead after her. Gunda ran as fast as she could, skirts flying, heart pounding, but the hound was faster. It caught her near a rocky ledge, leaping to pin her down. But Gunda, desperate and brave, seized a stone and smashed it into the hound's face. With a yelp of pain, Wolfhead reeled back. The giant arrived seconds later, mad with fury. He raised his great club and without a word struck Gunda down. The valley fell silent once more. To the giant this was just another day, another act of cruelty among many. He returned to his keep with Wolfhead, slept soundly that night. Weeks passed. One morning, while counting his herd, the giant noticed a young boar missing. Enraged, he kicked Wolfhead. "Lazy hound," he roared. "Find it or I'll whip you with Thor's own belt and feed you to the wolves." Snarling, Wolfhead vanished into the woods. By dusk, the hound had found the boar, dead. An arrow clean through its heart. The giant was livid. He swore to take the hand of whoever had dared harm his prized animal. He summoned his steward and sent messengers throughout the dale, declaring every man able to shoot a bow must climb Penhill within a week's time. Any man who failed would rot in the dungeons. Meanwhile, Wolfhead, resentful after the beating, refused to return. The giant's men found him, but the hound growled and would not come near. The giant, blinded by fury, nocked an arrow and slew his only companion. The next day came, grim and heavy. Atop Penhill, the men of the Dales stood in a nervous line. The giant paced before them like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Who among you shot my boar?" he growled. Silence. His voice rose like thunder. "Speak, or tomorrow every father shall bring his youngest child, and if I still have no answer, I shall show you what a son of Thor is capable of." The men scattered in fear, but one figure stayed behind. An old man leaning on a staff met the giant's eyes without blinking. "And what will you do," he asked, "if the answer does not come tomorrow?" The giant laughed. "I have the power of life and death over these lands. You'd best remember your place, old one." The hermit nodded slowly. "Then remember this. Tomorrow is Thor's day. If you cause a single child to cry in pain or fear, you will never enter your castle again, dead or alive." The giant scoffed. "Get back to your cave, you old fool." But the warning had been given. The next evening, as the sun sank, the villagers returned, each father carrying a child in his arms, trudging up the hill with dread in their hearts. But at the halfway point, they met the hermit. He spoke quietly to each one, promising protection. "He will not harm your children." Meanwhile, in the castle, the giant watched from his tower. His mood was bright, anticipating pain, control, revenge. But then, a servant interrupted him. "Master," the servant stammered, "I had a dream last night. The ravens—" Before he could finish, the giant flew into a rage and kicked him across the hall. The servant, broken but not dead, crawled to his feet. Then, with smouldering eyes, he piled baskets of straw, peat, and dry wood in the great hall, and set the castle ablaze. The giant, unaware, left the keep to meet the villagers. But something was wrong. 9 dead boars lay across his path. 9 more 9 steps later. Again and again in eerie symmetry until he reached the final slope. The giant's fury burned hotter than the fire behind him. He shouted, "By Thor himself, not only your babies, but every soul here shall bleed tonight. The ravens will feast." And then he saw the old hermit. "You," the giant bellowed, "come kneel before me." But the hermit only shook his head. "No servant of yours am I. If you want words, walk to me. But look behind you first. See what you've become." The giant turned and froze. His castle was ablaze, flames danced in every window, smoke curled into the sky, thick with the screams of collapsing stone. He stood, stunned. Then, roaring like the storm god of his blood, he charged the hermit, raising his club. But before he could strike, he stopped. He dropped the club. His face drained of all colour, because standing behind the hermit was Gunda. She was no ghost, but something more. Her eyes burned with justice, and beside her, held on a long rope, stood Wolfhead, silent, waiting. The giant stumbled back step by step. He neared the cliff edge. Gunda raised her hand and let go of the rope. Wolfhead leapt. The beast struck its master's throat. The two toppled over the edge of Penhill, falling into legend. They were never seen again. But on cold, clear nights in the Yorkshire Dales, some say you can still hear the roar of a giant and the howl of a hound echoing from the cliffs. And so ends a tale of the Giant of Penhill, descendant of Thor, tyrant of the Dales, and the dark legend of Yorkshire's past. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more forgotten folklore, dark legends and mythic tales from history, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me keep these old stories alive. Leave a comment below. Have you heard this tale before? Do you believe there's truth hidden in the myth? Or maybe you've got a local legend of your own to share. And of course, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and let the ravens know we've done a good job. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep your eyes on the hills and your ears open for ancient voices in the wind.